Hello everyone! So I am a big fan of cooperative games. Started with Pandemic, then I played through all those legacy games. I obviously play a lot of Robinson Crusoe. One game I've been enjoying for a long time is Dead of Winter. So Dead of Winter is a game that I've been playing for almost 10 years now, almost since it came out. This game is brutal like they usually are, but there's a lot of different scenarios, there's a lot of different expansions, and a lot of different promos, so that had my attention. So as far as promos go, there are character cards and crossroad cards, and they came from all types of different places, so it's kind of a collector's nightmare trying to get a hold of all of these. So recently, actually just this week, I finally got a hold of this Raxon game, which some of you know contains 2 promos for the classic Dead of Winter. So, as of this week, I finally have all of the character cards for this game. It took me 10 years almost, but we got there. So I thought what I could do today is share those cards, share a little bit about them, and also rank them. So I'm going to rank them from my least favorite to most favorite, and I'll also tell you where kind of my cutoff is for which ones I would recommend looking for and which ones I wouldn't. I will say that I don't think any of these are big enough impact to the game to be worth spending all kinds of eBay money on. You know, I wouldn't go crazy on these, but if you find some to trade with or you find some at a convention, I'll tell you which ones are good and which ones we can skip. So when you get a character promo card, you actually get 3 things. So first, you get a standee. So this card contains the standee, and you will punch it out and you'll get a character that looks like this. You also will get a character card which explains their stats and their special powers, and then you'll get a crossroad card which will have kind of a thematic way that you can run into them when you're playing the game. So that being said, my number 9, my least favorite of all of these, is one of the new ones from the Raxon set. It's Meryl Wolf. So to be honest, these newest 2, so the Meryl Wolf and Katie James, these 2 I have not actually played with because I just got them this week. So I'm going based off of my experience in the game and how I think they'll do. But after playing, if I feel like that order's not right, I'll make a comment and I'll adjust my rating if necessary. But Meryl Wolf, her power reads, once per round you may shuffle the crisis contribution cards, look at them, and then you may add one to your hand. She also is really good at searching and okay at fighting. Now, the reason I'm rating her at the bottom is because her special ability lets you deal with crisis cards, and really the only reason you should be dealing with crisis cards is if you think that there's a traitor or if you are the traitor. Now, if you are the traitor or you think there is a traitor, there already is a mechanism in the game to deal with that that's a lot more effective than going through the crisis cards. So I feel like at best this might have a one-time effect in the game where it could be really useful. If you're suspicious but you're not sure about somebody, you could use this to check. So some of these powers you can use every round. Some of them are fantastic. So to trade away your power for something that you can maybe successfully use one time and likely not even one time just doesn't make sense to me. I think there's a lot of better characters out there, so she's ranked number 9. So next, I'm going to go to Felicia Day. So here's her card, her standee. Now, Felicia's power reads, for the purposes of triggering and resolving crossroad cards, in addition to her own name, Felicia is considered to have the name of every survivor not currently in play. Now this one, when I read it, I thought this was going to be fantastic. I was really excited about this one because, you know, that crossroad deck is really hard to get through. There's just so many of those cards, and the likelihood that you're going to have the right character in play at the right place is just really small. So, you know, as many times as I played this game, I bet there's tons of those crossroad cards that I've never seen and may never see. You know, some of them are just really hard to trigger. So the Felicia card lets you trigger a lot more than you normally could because she has every name. So if you have her at the gas station and it has any character's name not in play, then she's going to trigger. So you're probably going to get through a lot more of those cards than you normally do. You'll probably get to read a lot of flavor text that you've been wondering about. but it's not that fun, actually. I find that it really takes me out of the theme. So usually, you're kind of rummaging through the gas station or the colony, and then you find a pilot or you find, someone else running around. And then there's kind of a cool story that comes out of it. With Felicia, it just doesn't make any sense. She just has every name. It doesn't make sense that she's trying to fly planes or she's trying to be a doctor or she's trying to do all those other things. It just kind of takes me out of the theme of the game. And it also slows the game down more. So you have to think a little bit more. You have to look at the characters a little bit closer when you're reading the crossroads card for her. And it's just not better. So most of the time, if I deal her out to somebody in the beginning of the game and they're choosing the characters, usually she'll get chosen just because it sounds really fun. I don't choose her anymore. If I get her in my opening hand, I do not keep her. And I sometimes get a little bit sad when other people do keep her because it just takes something away from me. I can't really explain it, but she's not for me. So she is ranked my number 8. So now for number 7, we have Miss Roberta Plum, the Mall Mrs. Claus herself. Her special power reads, at the beginning of your turn, if you have one or more junk cards in your hand, you may initiate a gift exchange with another player. Give the chosen player a junk card from your hand and place it into their hand. The chosen player must unequip an item from a survivor they control and immediately equip that item on Roberta. So, her power is slightly similar to Mara Wolf's power, and that's why I don't like it that much. So, she can take cards from other players. This game is mostly cooperative, so to take a card from another player, usually you don't need to do that. Usually they'll give it to you. If you can go meet up with them, they'll give it to you. There might be a time or two where you need an item somewhere else and you can't get to somebody. So maybe there's some small cases where she could be useful, but I think for the most part she would be most useful if you're the trader or if you're looking for a trader and you can steal cards from them. And again, there is already a way to deal with traders in the game. So to have your only power deal with that, it's not my favorite. So these 3 cards are my least favorite. I also will note that her crossroad card does have the symbol at the bottom here, which indicates that this is a card with a little bit heavier content. So some gamers would like to take those cards out. They might have language or drug or violent references. So if you are a gamer that wants to take these cards out anyway, you're not even going to use her crossroad cards. So that's even an extra waste. So these are the 3 out of all of them that I would recommend the least. These are the 3 that I would definitely pass on personally. I think you can do without these. Now, the next one is going to be kind of in the okay category. If you find it for a good deal or you find it in a trade, maybe take it. And then everything after that is really fun, I think. I think they get better from there. So, number 6 here is Giggles the Birthday Clown. Here's his standee. So, Giggles has a special power that reads, when attacking or searching with Giggles, place a noise token at his location. Well, that's not great. We don't want to be making noise everywhere, but he can search or attack with a 1. So, I think that's really useful, and there's a lot of scenarios where you really need to get a lot of stuff done, and if you roll bad, you can lose the whole turn. So with Giggles, if you can search a couple times for sure, or attack a couple times for sure, and not have to worry about bad rolls, maybe some noise tokens aren't a big deal. So I definitely think there's some scenarios or some times in the game where he could be really useful. So I think if you can find him, he's kind of interesting. Also, his crossword card is it's kind of interesting. It's a fun one. So yeah. So now we'll head on to number 5. So these next 5 cards are the ones that I enjoy a lot, and these are the ones that if I'm dealt them in my opening hand, I'll probably keep them. So first one is Mr. Kodiak Colby. He is a woodsman, and his special power reads, Kodiak does not count towards the total number of survivors when determining how much food the colony needs or when placing zombies. When performing a search with Kodiak, you cannot use noise tokens. So, usually when you play a lot of these scenarios, food at some point becomes pretty tight. And so having people at the colony, can be a liability. But usually if you don't have somebody at the colony, then zombies are going to overrun the place, especially if you have a lot of helpless survivors. So Kodiak, you can actually keep him at the colony, and he can just knock out a lot of stuff. He can do all the chores out there. He can fight off all the zombies. He can kind of get a lot done out there without causing much trouble. So, I like him. Kodiak Colby. Next, we have Mr. Watch It Played Rodney Smith himself, the Canadian Mountie here. So Mr. Rodney's power is, once per round, you may move Rodney one additional time. When moving Rodney, do not roll for exposure. While in play, you must pay one additional food during the pay food step of the colony phase. On a 1+, you can apprehend a zombie at Rodney's location, removing it from the game. Roll for exposure twice. So, Rodney is kind of a mixed bag here. So, being able to move without rolling for exposure is fantastic. He's not going to do a good job at fighting. He can only fight on a 6+. So he's going to be apprehending zombies or probably not doing much else. But he also eats a lot. But he can move without rolling for exposure. And that's why he's in the top, because I hate that dice. I hate that dice so much. I always roll the tooth, especially the first turn of the game. I cannot tell you how many times I've killed my character the first turn of the game. So if I see any card that says, do not roll for exposure, I like it already. So because of that, he made the good side of the list here. So next we're going to go to Ruckus Burley. And his special power reads, on a 4+, you can discard a junk card without using its effect to perform an attack. Do not roll for exposure. Now he's a little bit more balanced, so he can search and attack on a 2+, which is pretty good. And he has the ability to attack without rolling for exposure. Again, big fan of that. I will also say that he's one of the few cards that I know that you can actually still buy today. He may be the only one you can still buy today. So he is sold in a package that comes with a Dead of Winter comic book on Board Game Geek right now for $13. And I don't know if there's any of the other ones right now that you can get on that site. They're getting a little bit hard to find just because the game is so old. One more note about his Crossroad card. There is no symbol on here indicating that it's a heavier theme, but there is a drug reference on this card, so if that's something that you don't want in your game, you may want to consider skipping him for that reason, because you wouldn't be able to use his Crossroad card. So, now we're getting to our top 2. So, at number 2, we have Mr. Rich Sommer, regular guy, with the chainsaw strapped to his back. Mr. Rich here, his power reads, once per round, during your turn you may roll a die. On a result of 4 or higher, kill 3 zombies at this survivor's location. Do not roll for exposure. If you roll a 3 or less, place 1 wound on the survivor. Being able to take out 3 zombies with 1 dice is pretty great, especially towards the end of the game when things are getting really dire. I think a lot of times that's worth the risk of taking a wound. It's a lot easier to deal with a wound than it is to deal with a lot of other issues. So it's a lot easier than dealing with zombies overrunning you, and it's a lot better than having to roll for exposure. So for that reason, I think he's great. He also can attack with a 1+, so he's just going to be taking out a lot of zombies for you, and I think that's great. One thing to notice about his Crossroad card is one of the options here does require you to add a despair token. Now that despair mechanism was in the Long Night, not the original game, so if you don't have the Long Night, it's maybe up to you to decide how you want to handle it. You can just mimic how the despair token works, or maybe you change it to a wound or something, but something to note if you don't have that version, you might just have to deal with it a different way. And for people that don't have the Long Night, the despair token is a wound that can't be removed unless something specifically tells you to remove a despair token. So you can't use medicine like you normally would, or some of the healing powers to remove it. So it's a wound that's a little tougher to get rid of. So he does have the ability to inflict one of those on somebody. So really, it probably wouldn't be that hard just to mimic it, but up to you how you want to handle it. So that brings us to my number 1 pick, which is Katie James, the CDC officer herself. So this character also came in this Rexon box, and I have not played with her yet. I've just read through the power, and I think it sounds really fun, and I'm going to pick her first next time I get the ability to. And so I think her power is really interesting, and I think she's going to be great in this game. So I am optimistically ranking her as number 1, but that could change. Her card reads, when a player rolls a 2 symbol on the exposure die after attacking a zombie at Katie's location or after moving to Katie's location, you may immediately play a medicine card without using its effect to have that player reroll the die. That sounds great! You can attack and you can move to her and she'll save you. That sounds amazing, especially if she's in the colony, because I can't tell you how many times that I've tried to retreat to the safety of the colony and taken out a bunch of people with me. She can stop all of that. I'm a big fan already. So Katie James, welcome to the team. I'm glad to have you in my collection now, and I look forward to playing with you. So that is all of the character cards for Dead of Winter. Between the expansions, the original game, and the promos, I think that there's close to 70 characters to choose from. So you're going to have a lot of variety in your game already, but I hope that some of these new promo cards will spice it up a little bit more. I hope that they'll bring some new stories and some fun times to your game. I'm also kind of a little bit glad to see some of these guys a little less. I don't know about you, but in our game group, Mr. Mike Cho, the ninja, is the most cursed card of all time. This man has a great power, but he dies immediately every time I pick him. So it's kind of nice to have some other options to play with here. So let me know which ones are your favorite, which one are you still on the hunt for, and if you have any funny stories, I'd love to hear them. Otherwise, I hope you have a great day. Thank you so much for watching.